We're following the breaking news out of the White House. The North Korean official Kim Young-chol has been in the White House now, I'm guessing for about 25 minutes or so. We saw him being escorted into the White House by the White House Chief of Staff, John Kelly. He's bringing a letter from the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, to the President of the United States. We anticipate that letter is being delivered in the Oval Office. We're waiting for statements. He was looking at some video from moments ago when he arrived at the White House, walking down the colonnade over there into the West Wing of the White House. Kim Young-chol. We're going to continue to follow this as soon as we get the videotape of what's happening in the Oval Office. As soon as we see the statements, whether on tape or live, we'll of course have that for our viewers here in the United States and around the world. But there's other important news we're following in the meantime. The White House now pushing back against criticism over President Trump's use of pardons. Critics say he's trying to send a message to allies caught up in the Russia probe. Even Trump ally Roger Stone tells the Washington Post, and I'm quoting now, "It has to be a signal to Mike Flynn and Paul Manafort and even Robert S. Mueller III, indict people for crimes that don't pertain to Russian collusion, and this is what could happen." Special Counsel has awesome powers, as you know, but the president has even more awesome powers. That from Roger Stone. Let's bring back our panel. Seth Waxman is joining us right now. How widespread is this presidential pardon capability? Can he pardon anyone he wants with any reason or for no reason he wants? Because some have suggested there are some restrictions.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people that believes there are restrictions. I mean, the Constitution lays out the pardon power, and it is exclusive to the president. There's no other person in the world, or at least in the United States, that can issue a pardon. But it's not absolute. You know, the Constitution has plenty of provisions where there are restrictions. I mean, the freedom of speech for the American citizens. We all think that that's, you know, an important power, but we all know we can't run into a crowded theater and yell fire. So the notion that, you know, something's written in the Constitution, it's sacrosanct, and there can be no limits, I just don't buy into that. And frankly, the way Mr. Trump is using this, if it was any other criminal subject or target of an investigation, it is the definition of obstruction of justice, to kind of dangle a carrot out there to entice people to either shade their testimony or not cooperate with law enforcement, is the definition of obstruction of justice.
Because, Dana, you've heard all the criticism of the president that he is trying to send a message, a signal to people like Paul Manafort, his former campaign chairman, who's been indicted, or Mike Flynn, his former national security advisor, who's already pled guilty to various charges, to sending a signal, you know what, I might have your back.
Right, and by way of context, it bears repeating in this conversation that traditionally presidents don't just issue a pardon in the middle of their term, never mind in the second year of their term. It's usually done maybe sometimes around Christmas time, but mostly at the end of their term. That's how incredibly unusual this is. And look, the other thing I keep thinking is, can you imagine if a Democratic president did this? Can you imagine if Barack Obama, who the Republicans called the imperial president because he used his executive power so much, did this? Or Bill Clinton? Or yeah. Pardon me?
Or a foreign leader.
Or a foreign leader.
Reading about any foreign leader
yes,
doing
exactly.
This.
I mean, it's just, it is incredibly transparent why he's doing it. And Roger Stone has probably never spoken truer words than what he said to the Washington Post in saying that this is clearly a message to the people under investigation. Don't rat me out because I got your back.
The former Attorney General Eric Holder, who served under President Obama, he said this about the whole pardon capability. Listen.
If you pardon somebody, all right, well, that means that they don't have much to worry about with regard to whatever the pardon covers. But if Bob Mueller, for instance, wants to take a pardoned person, put that person before a grand jury, that person no longer has the ability to say, I'm going to invoke my Fifth Amendment right. That's been stripped away. You have a pardon. And that person then becomes a perfect witness for the special counsel.
Seth, you're a former federal prosecutor. What do you think?
I mean, that's true. They wouldn't have a Fifth Amendment right. You get kind of into this weird scenario where that person who's pardoned is now brought in front of a grand jury and then let's just say lies. And so now that person is subject to perjury charges, and then what? Does President Trump then pardon him once again, or that person once again, for the lies in the grand jury? And you can kind of get into this circle. So it just is it's a slippery slope, and the idea that the president is using this power in this manner, you know, in my mind is an abuse of power.
All right, everybody stick around. There's more that's unfolding at the White House right now. North Korea's top former spy chief is inside, we're told, not only the West Wing, but probably the Oval.